Republicans are gearing up for a big debate next week, but one issue uniting most of the candidates on stage could also cost them the election next year. We're talking about the wall. Donald Trump has set off a race for who can be the most anti-illegal immigration, calling for a wall across the entire Mexican border, and he's moved the GOP base here with this effort. A majority of Republicans now say the issue is crucial to their vote, as a jump from 39% when he got in the race. But it's worth remembering that the passion among partisans is not reflected by the wider electorate. Look at this. In the first year President Obama took office, here was the breakdown on how all Americans felt about how many immigrants the U.S. should accept. 32% saying it should not change, 14% wanted more, and more people overall, 50%, wanted some kind of decrease. Those numbers have broadly turned more pro-immigration. The same Gallup poll question this year finds now more people supporting the status quo or increasing immigration to the U.S. That's 40% and 25%, while the crowd that wants a decrease actually dropped. It shrunk 16 points. But when it comes to the subject of immigration, there is another image now beyond the wall that's capturing the world's attention in recent weeks. It's this one. A Turkish official carrying the body of a 3-year-old Syrian migrant who washed ashore. He slipped from his father's arms when their boat capsized, and that heartbreaking image has forced many around the world to pay attention to the more than 4 million Syrians fleeing their war-torn country, a migratory crisis of World War II level proportions. Late this week, as we've been reporting today, President Obama expanded immigration policy to take another 10,000 Syrian refugees. And as some Americans shift their attention from hypothetical border walls to these real images of the reason that many people immigrate, because of danger, because of poverty, because they feel that they have to, a stridently anti-immigration or even anti-foreigner position may not only be out of step with public opinion, may be out of sync with the real problems facing the world right now. Joining me now to discuss is Daniel Garza, Executive Director of the LIBRE Initiative. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ari. How are you?
I'm all right. I want to talk broad policy and the Republican race with you, but before we get to that, your thoughts and your expertise here on this migrant crisis.
Are you talking about the one in Europe?
Yes.
Yes, look, it's an incredibly sad situation. What's happening, it is failed states in the Middle East that is causing this major crisis. And, you know, it's a complicated situation for a lot of the European nations and also for America. We have a long list of folks wanting to come into America, and now that's just added to the line and the urgency. So it's going to be interesting to see who sort of rises up with a plan that is acceptable to as many people as possible. That we'll be watching for that.
Right, and look, these aren't issues that have simple answers. It's one thing for people around the world to look at the humanity and the suffering, and another thing to try to craft solutions to problems that are escaping easy solutions. So I want to be clear about that. And yet, at the policy level, it does relate to whether we look at this as a human problem with people of goodwill in bad situations, or whether there is demagoguery, which is something your group has pushed explicitly in regards to Donald Trump. I want to read from your letter. You say immigrants willing to work in the United States contribute greatly to our economy, society, and culture. May those who wish to work hard and contribute to the U.S. remain welcome. And you've slammed the proposals on mass deportation. What do you think is the right way to resolve this, and is Donald Trump ultimately, in your view, going to cost Republicans potentially the election?
So to your first point, our concern is that we are moving away from realistic policy that can deal with the 11 to 12 million folks that are here currently without authorization, with their children, with our visa situation. And look, 40% of the people who are here without authorization is because they overstayed their visas, and that needs to be dealt with. We have an economy where we need to respond to market forces in the best way, and the private sector needs workers to make a profit, whether that's low-skilled or high-skilled. So we need a comprehensive plan, and to just focus on border security is not realistic either, and that shouldn't hold up the rest of the pieces. But to say that you're going to end birthright citizenship, to say that you're going to seize the remittances of hard-working migrants who have come to America, and they're sending it back to their grandmothers and mothers, and that you're going to do mass deportation, that is unrealistic, and it's bad policy.
Right, and it's not only unrealistic, I want to bring in Michael Steele, former Republican Party chair, it's also incredibly offensive to many Latino Americans in their own words, many of whom are legal. I want to read, you know, the favorability ratings here. When you look at Hispanics and the GOP right now, Jeb Bush doing well. He's got plus 11. Marco Rubio not doing as well, a distinction there based probably on name ID and other things, but plus 5. Ted Cruz minus 7. Donald Trump negative 51.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just how this resonates with members of the Hispanic community, but how it resonates with all Americans. And the fact is, and I've been waiting for some time to see if a Jeb Bush or a Marco Rubio would redefine the narrative on the party's relationship to the Hispanic community. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, we want more of you to come in and vote for us. But they're not going to come in unless there's a reason to do that. And what is that reason? And that's going to be the articulation that Jeb Bush in particular is going to have to create. In the meantime, the party's got to deal with the gap that's increasing between it and Hispanic leaders and activists, but more importantly, the Hispanic people across the country. But also how it resonates with others around America, particularly white women. The white female vote is a very sensitive voting bloc, because while the subject may not be germane to them directly, they watch how people respond, how others respond to that, and that also drives those numbers.
That's a judgment of values. It's for many people a judgment of religious beliefs. Absolutely. What do we owe these folks? I mean, Daniel, let me play for you Donald Trump talking to Bill O'Reilly, threading this needle, saying sort of without much evidence, well, the refugees, you know, what if they're involved in ISIS? The evidence isn't that the people fleeing are ISIS warriors, so he may need a little homework done on that. But then he still says by the end, but we got to do something because he sees it in a humanitarian way as well. Take a listen.
It just really, I wonder, you know, where all these people are coming from exactly and what are they representing? Because do you have people from ISIS in that group? You know, there's a lot of security risk with it, but something has to be done. It's an unbelievable humanitarian problem.
So, Daniel, what do you make of that, again, connecting this all back together, that even the border wall anti-immigrant voice here is saying something has to be done on the migrant issue?
Well, look, Ari, you know, that poll that you showed that Americans are now, you know, more open to more immigration is because I think, you know, we've understood that throughout our history, there are some estimates that show that over 200 million immigrants have come to America. They've contributed to America. They've generated their own wealth and created opportunity for others in America, and they've made us the strong, prosperous nation that we are. And so we are an open country that puts a value on talent and on skills and that hard work ethic, and that's what they bring. And so for someone to go beyond the pale and to start talking about unrealistic positions, look, I would warn Hillary Clinton too. I mean, she said that she was going to go beyond Barack Obama on immigration reform. Barack Obama has not got us consensus, has not got us real reform either. So for you to say that you're going to go beyond Barack Obama is not helpful to the discussion. And so, you know, I would just, you know, welcome a debate that is more sensible, that is reasonable, that brings it back towards the middle, towards consensus, and to get us to real reform, which is what we're needed in America for a strong economy.
All right, Daniel Garza from the LIBRE Initiative, thank you for joining us. And still ahead on our show, what used to be a common credential on the resumes of candidates has disappeared. Why is that? Also next, a possible break in the search for a sniper in Phoenix. Stay with us.